Thank you for joining today's webinar and welcome back. This is the sixth installment of Hannon Hill's 8-part webinar series this year, and the second and sadly the final webinar of our summer series. Now, whether this is your first time with us or you are a returning attendee, welcome to our webinar series. This webinar is brought to you by Hannon Hill, makers of Cascade CMS. Our suite of products help you future-proof your websites through maximum security, robust web governance, scalability, web personalization, and action items that will increase the effectiveness of your site. And all this while you enjoy the best customer support in the industry. We were founded in 2001, and Hannon Hill has been dedicated to higher education for the past 24 years. We proudly serve 340 institutions with a renewal rate of 96% year over year. Now, you might be wondering, why does a CMS provider host a webinar on social media marketing? And it's a good question, but here at Hannon Hill, we understand that effective communication and engagement are crucial for building and maintaining strong connections with your academic community. And that is why we offer webinars on wide ranges of topics that are designed to benefit you. We recognize that engaging with your current and prospective student is not a one-size-fits-all approach. And social media, particularly short-form videos these days, offer a powerful way to connect with your students on a personal level, boosting engagement and retention. Now, for the next 60 minutes, our speakers will share actionable strategies and insights on how to leverage social media to enhance student retention at your institutions. Our speakers today are Maya Demishkevich, the Chief Marketing Officer at Carroll Community College and the host of the Hidden Gem podcast, and Rob Clark, the creator of ThatTallFamily, and also the Assistant Director of Athletics and Marketing and Engagement at Greenville University. And my name is Chris Raposo. I lead the marketing efforts here at Hannon Hill. This session will be recorded and a link of the presentation will be sent to you in the upcoming days. There will also be a live Q&A at the end, so please feel free to drop your questions in the comments below and we'll answer them for you. And with that, let's start with the introduction. Maya, please introduce yourself.
Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for having me, Chris. I'm so excited. I'm passionate about retention and short form video and social media, so I'm excited to share some of my insights and, of course, hear what Rob has to say because I know he has a lot of great insights prepared. But I've been in higher ed for the last 15 years, working in a variety of different institutions. Currently, I am at Carroll Community College in Maryland. I do host a podcast specifically designed for community colleges. So if you haven't listened to it before, I hope you do give it a chance. And I do some consulting on the side. So looking forward to this great discussion. And if there are any community colleges with us today, let me know in chat. I would love to know who is here.
Very good. And Rob Clark.
Yes, thanks for having me, Chris. It's great to be on here. As you mentioned, probably why most people would know who I am is a family brand that we created 3 years ago, ThatTallFamily, when we wanted to live in the South, actually. So we decided to move to Atlanta. I didn't have a job. I thought that I could make a go of it with social media. And somehow, some way, my wife said, okay, let's sell our house and let's try it. And it worked out for us. We're at a little over 4 billion views in the last 3 years. And we've been here at Greenville University, which is where my wife and I met. We have family in the area, lots of friends in the area. So we decided to move back here and then quickly got asked to do some help with the university. And so that's been a lot of fun as well to learn a new industry. As you guys know, higher ed is its own beast. And so it's been a lot of fun.
So to set the stage for our discussion today, I wanted to start with this chart. I'm sure many of you have seen it before, and it's one of the things everybody's talking about right now is the enrollment flip. And I think this graph perfectly demonstrates what is about to happen in the next few years. The number of first-time college students is going to decline significantly, and it will be a lot more competitive to get students to come to your college. So that's why our discussion today is so important because retention is going to be one of the key strategies. And we always talk about how it's more expensive to get the new students and it's less expensive to keep those students in. So let's talk about how we can do it specifically with social media and short form video. So strategy going forward, retaining current students is key. And if you are working for a community college and you have a dual enrollment program, then for you, keeping those students at your institutions once you've got them into this dual enrollment program is going to be another key strategy coming up in the next 2 years. Another thing we know about retention is 3 in 10 students are not finishing their first year in college. 3 students leave, right? So wouldn't that be helpful for your bottom line revenue to keep those students enrolled? I think so. So that kind of helps set the stage for why retention is important and will be even more important in the next few years. But today, what I wanted to talk to you about is how you specifically as a marketer can help your institution retain those students. And I'm going to walk you through a 4-step approach. First is to identify the opportunities. Where can you actually make an impact? Second, establish your goals and define how do you want to measure your success of your campaign or your initiative. And then define where do you plan to distribute your messages and what are those messages are. And of course, identify who will be delivering those messages on your institution's behalf. Because we do know that very often it's more important who is delivering the message versus what is actually being said. So being strategic with who is delivering the message on behalf of your institution is also very important. If you have any questions so far, let us know. So the first thing is to identify where you can make an impact. So let's talk a little bit about retention and what is the impact on student retention. Why do they actually leave? There's a lot of research in this area, and as I was looking through the studies, I found 5 main reasons. The first one, and it's not surprising, right? It's financial burden. So it's one of the top challenges that's affecting students and their decision to retain at their institution. So students' ability to pay tuition, to pay for books, other educational expenses can really impact if they stay at your institution. The second challenge to retaining students is their preparedness for college level coursework. So very often what we see happening is students get enrolled, they start classes, they take the first 2 classes, and then they realize they might have a gap in their education or knowledge, and they're not able to proceed, they're not able to be successful in the coursework they take. The next one, and this one is balancing obligation, and it's a big one, especially for adult students and students at community colleges, because very often, while trying to be successful and completing their program, they also have a lot of other obligations on the side and responsibilities, and they have lives, and they have full-time work. Sometimes they have children, families. So very often you hear people say the biggest competitor to higher education is life itself, right? Because there's so many things that are happening outside of college. Okay, the next one is mental health. And there's so many stressors that students have to manage, especially after COVID. There's increased anxiety and worry, and higher education can be very stressful. So keeping in mind the mental health component is important. And the last one, which is assistance resources, and we don't often talk about it, but it's a challenge for students to know about the available help at the institution. Because we do know students who do well in classes and get timely help, whether it's from a writing tutor or math tutor or I don't know, something else, maybe somebody's reviewing your paper online. The more successful you are in your classes, the better you do, the more likely you are to retain and stay. Any questions about the challenges? It's important to understand, because once you understand what they are, it becomes a lot easier to create messaging and campaigns. And you can decide and create campaign about and around any of those challenges. Today, I'm going to talk about specifically assistance resources. So what we decided to do is okay, we do want to focus on retaining our students, making sure they know about the resources available and they get the help in a timely manner, right? So our strategy was to leverage Instagram to increase awareness about available support services and make sure students stay. So that was our goal. Okay, now what was the tactic behind it? We wanted to leverage Instagram as the main channel to communicate to our students because we knew that our students are using and following us on Instagram. The next step was to identify what type of messaging are we going to deliver, right? What are some of the misconceptions? What are some of the beliefs that the students might currently have that we need to address to remove those barriers so they can easily get the help? As we were talking to our current students, what we found out, it was actually very surprising to us, but some of them believe that only academically challenged students use the academic support services. So if you're not struggling as much, you're not likely to go and ask for help. So that was interesting. The second one we found out was many people saw that asking for help was a sign of weakness, and they didn't want to feel like they can't figure it out on their own, so they didn't ask for help. Some people didn't realize that we also offered online tutoring services. They thought that they had to be in person on campus to get. And then some students, which was the most surprising one, is they thought they actually had to pay for those services. So we identified that these are the beliefs we wanted to address in our communications on Instagram. And of course, who is better to deliver those messages than the students themselves? So we did hire social media ambassadors to help us create content to address those misconceptions. And we asked them to keep our audience engaged throughout the week on stories as well. So it's not just posting to the feed, it's also engaging on stories. We have our goal to increase retention. We have our channel identified, which is Instagram. We know what messages we want to address. We know who our messengers are going to be. And then the next thing we need to decide, when are we actually going to do it? So we decided to do it mid-September when students have started their first semester. They're 2 weeks in, they're acclimated, and now we can actually start helping them. And they might be at a point where they know where the challenges are, so they can be starting to ask for help. So let me show you some examples.
A win is a win. A win is a win. I don't care what y'all say. A win is a win.
So this is one of our social media student ambassadors. And what we asked them to do is to create engaging, entertaining content, something that would resonate with our current students. This is one of the ideas she had. It's kind of funny. It got a lot of views, a lot of likes. So that's one example. And this one is just to attract attention and get people to, I don't know, maybe relate, get to know her a bit.
It's me. Hi, I'm the problem. It's I'm the problem.
Okay, so this one is just kind of encouraging students to stop by because if they don't want to fail and they don't want to be a problem, they should go and get help and stop by the tutoring center.
Taking my time to perfect the beat, and I still got love for the streets. It's the taking my time to perfect the.
Okay, so remember how I said some people didn't realize we had online services? So this one is exactly to address that, to show where they need to go to submit their paper to get it reviewed.
And I'll be singing Holy Mother of Moses.
So this reel was, the idea was to educate them about what types of services we have available, and then let them know that it doesn't cost anything because it's free, it's included in their tuition.
Hey guys, it's Riley. I just wanted to let you know that this week Carroll is celebrating Tutor Appreciation Week. So make sure you go to the Great Hall and write down a little note of how much you appreciate your tutors.
Assemble.
I'm just showing you some ideas for the stories.
Good morning, everyone. This is Jamie. I just wanted to share my appreciation for a couple of different tutors since it's Tutor Appreciation Week. Thank you, Stefan. Thank you, Noah. Thank you, Debbie. They've all helped me in the past.
Hey guys, it's
Okay, so what happened here is we started creating content and promoting the services, and I called the director of our academic center, and she said, we are overwhelmed. We have so many students coming to get help that we don't have enough tutors to help those students. So maybe instead of promoting those services, can you help us promote job openings for tutors? So we kind of switched gears midterm because they couldn't accommodate the demand. And at the same time, she said, well, I really want to show appreciation to all the tutors that I have. So she decided to create the Tutor Appreciation Week. It's not something that exists. It was just made up by us, but we encouraged all the students to kind of show appreciations to the students, to the tutors we currently have.
Good morning,
Another
everyone. This is
example.
Jamie. I just wanted to...
And then we also, every day we did at least 5 stories. They were not all about academic services, but it's important to keep your students engaged and collect their feedback and then share it with your followers. So these are just some examples of the questions we asked. Okay, so these are examples of the content. So we ran this campaign for 3 months, starting mid-September, and we ended in the beginning of December. And what we saw is, in addition to the increased number of followers and our reach on Instagram and engagement, we also saw that 24% more students were using the center, were using the services. And then we also looked at the retention rates in the spring, and we saw an almost 2% increase in retention. So that was really good. We've never had so many students using the center before. Okay, so what I always tell, colleges I work with, or when I do my job, is make sure that in addition to the statistics and data you find on social media, like views and likes and shares, etc., find a way to tie your efforts on social media to a more concrete data to show that it's not just a coincidence that it happened, but it's a strategic, purposeful effort, and it is a direct correlation between what you do on the marketing side and what results the college sees. Of course, there are many different factors that can impact it, but you do your best to show the impact of your work. So in addition to sharing the results I just showed you, we also decided to survey students who have used the academic center that particular semester, and we sent them an email inviting them to participate. And the response rate was really good. We got 25% of students to respond to our survey. And of course, we offered them some giveaways and some swag. And these are the questions we asked. We wanted to know how many of them have actually seen the stories, the post, any content related to academic support services on our Instagram. And 82% of those who responded said, yes, I have seen the content. So that's great. The second question we asked was it helpful and informative? And again, 98% said that yes, it was, or sometimes it was, which again, very good. And then we asked, has this content influenced your decision to go and ask for help and use the center? And this was, again, really good response. 81% said yes or slightly, greatly or slightly. So only 19% did not agree. So 82%, that's great. And then we also wanted to know to what extent they felt that what we posted on Instagram helped increase their awareness of available services. And again, you can see great results, greatly 47%, slightly 49%, and only 4%, I don't know who they are, said that it didn't help them. But anyway, so it's a great way, surveys are a great way to kind of measure the impact. I know somebody said it was their challenge to see how you impact retention. So you can do surveys like that. So some additional things I wanted to share with you, what we learned during this campaign. It's important to understand that anything you do on social media, it should not be a standalone campaign. You can't just go and do academic tutoring all day long. It has to be integrated into your social media strategy. And the more engaged your audience is, the more likely you are to get great results. So that's why it's so important what you do every day, the content you post, the engagements, the comments, because it prepares the groundwork for any campaigns that you want to launch in the future. How you present information matters, and I would say it matters even more than what you actually say is how you say it. Making sure you collaborate with your academic center director. In our case, if I didn't talk to her, she might have been even more overwhelmed. So making sure that we work together. And then in our case, we did not boost content on Instagram, but I think if you wanted to increase your reach, you can consider boosting it as well. We didn't need it, but it's also a good way to reach a broader audience. And this kind of demonstrates that social media works for retention. If you do it right, it could be a very strategic approach for your college and overall goals. So that's all I got. If you guys like this kind of content, listen to my podcast. And I do see we have some questions.
Yes, I can read them out for you, Maya, if you'd like me
Okay.
to.
Okay.
Okay, perfect. Okay, the first one, Amanda Rose, and it wasn't really a question, it was more of a comment, but I still want both of your input there. So Amanda Rose said, feels like we're just overthinking this. Successful posts seem to be low effort. What do you guys say to that?
I think there needs to be a strategy behind it. How
Okay.
it's implemented doesn't have to be a great production value. Sometimes, yes, I agree, we do overthink.
Yeah, no, we always overthink, and the reality is we don't get to choose what is a great piece of content. Everyone else gets to decide whether it's good or not. And so a specific story, there's been lots of times where I have an amazing idea, it's going to crush, and we put a lot of effort into it and it flops. And then the story that I love to tell, my most famous video, I got a video that's at 225 million views on YouTube, where it took us all of 2 minutes to make and 30 seconds to edit. And I didn't think it was going to do very well, but I just had to get something out that day. So I decided to put something out that wasn't amazing just to get it out. And again, I don't get to decide what's amazing. Everyone else does. The world gets to decide that. And so, yes, we always overthink it. And if we just put more and more content out, we will figure out the patterns, because you'll start to see things that, okay, people like this type of content, but you don't know unless you put a lot out there. Be willing to let a few of them flop.
Mm-hmm.
Talking about editing, Jennifer Brestol, she had a question about editing tools that you both use. What works better than others? CapCut, Canva, what do you guys think?
I like both of them. I think CapCut is so easy to use, and you can install it on your phone. It has a lot of templates, like a good starting point, because sometimes people struggle with brainstorming ideas. So it's easier to start with something that already exists and see how you can apply it to your situation or your campaign. So I do like it. Canva, I don't do a lot for video, but for graphics, I think it's a great tool.
Rob?
Yeah, I agree with Maya there. It's like that old adage, the best camera is the one that you have in your hand. And that would be true with tools as well, whichever one you're going to use. But often with social media, if you're going to start using very complicated tools, more than likely you're not going to stick with it. And so majority of our videos don't even need any tools outside of what is provided in the platform.
Mhm.
Perfect, perfect. Let's talk about the student ambassadors, the content creators, the hiring, the payment structure. Have you found that student generated content
Mhm.
is broke? She said she found that a lot more successful on their channels, but how do you manage them on a regular basis, and how do you create a new position for this? Is this like
Mhm.
a full-time position, or is this
Mhm. Mhm.
seasonal?
There's 4 different ways you can approach this. One is you can create a part-time paid position, which I do believe you need to compensate student ambassadors for their work. We tried getting them for free, and it's just not the same um, the same value, I guess, you get. They're not as responsive, they're not as dedicated. So I do believe that paying them, if it's part-time, then you pay them on a part-time basis, is important. The second one, they're federal work study programs, right? So if they qualify, then the money will not come out of your budget, it will come out of the federal program. So that's a great way to get students at no cost to you and still compensate them. Another way is to, what are they? Internships. So if a student wants to get credit, so it's a structured internship that they get credit for. Again, they're more likely to be responsive and dedicated to this effort. And then you can work with influencers as well, and you could potentially pay them per effort if that's something you can afford. So I would say we usually go with the first two, either part-time or federal work study.
And Rob, I know your son helps out a lot with some of the stuff, or your kids on your track, on your social media, but how about Greenman University? You get involved in that as well with students there?
Yeah, for sure. I think the key is I would agree with everything that Maya said. I would add to that when it comes to management, the key is try to manage as little as possible. One is that people don't have the time. And two, if you let creators create, more than likely it's going to be a better piece of content. And so, of course, give guidelines. And I mean, it should be pretty macro. Of course, it's things like no explicit lyrics or, keep it under 30 seconds, whatever it may be. You can keep it pretty broad and let them run with it. A lot of times too is the content's already being made. And so this is where a good hack is to figure out who is on your campus that's pretty good at making content. Because a lot of students will make it no matter what. And then you could actually see what content is doing well. And so you can take that piece of content. Well, and I mean, you actually could take it, but the correct thing to do is talk to the students, say, hey, we'd love to reuse your piece of content. 9 times out of 10, they're going to say yes. They'll love that their college is sharing their content. And then if you want to put a little spin on it, usually they allow that as well. So a lot of times it's already made, but the work is finding that. But you'll find pretty quick once you get into the work of it, there's going to be a handful of students that are good at it. And then you could go back to them. And then, of course, then add on what Maya already said, that sometimes you need to maybe bring them in, pay them. Some of them would do it for free. Just if you share their content, they're not making it for you. Other times you could reward them with swag, whether it's a new sweatshirt, t-shirt, whatever it may be. They may be happy with that as well.
Okay, perfect. I know Gregory, Miranda, Amanda, they had questions as well. We'll answer them at the end of the session because we got a couple of slides for Rob Clark as well that I want to share right now. And I don't want to get ahead of ourselves too much. So let me go ahead and share the screen. And I think everybody can see that. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go through a couple of slides. There's going to be some videos there. Alrighty, so Rob Clark, this is your show now. So the first one's going to be a short form video that you had. I'm going to run the video, then we're going to talk about it.
I was down, but now I'm up. Yeah, it's all God, this ain't no love. Yeah, I used to be stuck in that mud. Yeah.
Okay, so this is one you did for the University of Greenville women's volleyball team. How do you come up with ideas? Do you follow certain trends, or how does that work?
I think a piece of it is, one, make sure I'm not muted, okay? I mean, that is my job. And so whoever's making content, part of it is realize, like, if that's your job, then you need to be in it. If an athlete doesn't get in the gym and practice, then you would say, okay, you need to sit the bench. And so as professionals, it's our job to be involved in content. So we should be up on the most current trends. We should be aware of what songs are happening. We should be aware of all those things. And that should be the base minimum if we're doing this job in creating content. And then we're just making content every day. And so you'll again find those patterns and have a pretty good idea of what will work. Not all the time though, because sometimes it does flop, and then sometimes it works out really well. So for an example, there's a couple things that I want to hit on with this video, just to give it some context. The university as a whole, like, we have a main account, and so they released some data. In the last year, all of our social media, or sorry, take that back. For the full year on Instagram alone, the main account reached just over 1 million people. So this one video we didn't put on the main account. It was actually on the volleyball page, which is a much smaller account, but it reached over 3 million people, this one video. And so what I want to hit on is that don't overlook the use of influencers. And this is something that I've been saying a long time now. I am biased that most of my income is from brands paying me money to do videos for them. So I am biased. So, take it with a grain of salt and do your own research. But this shows that, and of course, one video, it's simply awareness. It doesn't mean that all of a sudden we have people signing up to come to the university. But if we're talking about awareness, influencers can do that better than anyone else. And so 2 things with that. One is that you don't necessarily need a macro influencer, meaning you don't need someone with millions of followers. Now, I'll get to that in a second, because I think you should consider that. But even most schools will have micro influencers, meaning people with 10,000, 20,000, 30,000 subs or followers. And so they can actually, doing collaborations with them, could probably get you a lot more views than you currently get as well. Now, a lot of the colleges on here, so there's some colleges like Clemson, University of Hawaii, there's some bigger schools, should be no problem at all to look at your alumni. And so you look at your alumni, there's probably some pretty big influencers in your alumni. But even if you find on your current campus, there's going to be people with 20, 30, 40, 50,000 followers that you should consider talking to them and what that could look like. Now, one quick thing, and I'll be done with this. I do know colleges, even smaller colleges, will spend $10,000 to make a very nice polished video. And it's, got the trees and the drone shots, and it looks amazing, and it ends up getting 600 views. You spend 3 months at creating this. It happens all the time. And so there is actually money out there, and $10,000 will get you quite a bit when you look at influencers. And so you don't even have to use that amount, but it is something worth considering. One of the things that I just want to put on public record, I think very soon, it's probably already happening, that colleges are going to start offering scholarships to social media influencers. We do it for athletes already. Why wouldn't we do it for social media influencers that probably could bring a lot more awareness to your college than almost anything else? So anyway, I kind of rambled. That's what I do. So sorry if I'm all over the place, but that's what I got for that slide.
That makes a lot of sense. The star athletes, they may sell jerseys, right? But those influencers, they bring in those applications possibly. Okay, next slide. Let's talk a little bit about culture hacks. I'm going to play a video real quick.
I often talk about hacking culture, so I want to give you a very specific example. Just the other day at the NBA Combine, Bronny James performed there, did very well, but when they measured him, they found out that he was 6'1", even though often they claim he's 6'3" to 6'4". So we created a piece of content around there that already has close to 6 million views across all of our platforms and continually to trend up. I believe that this video is going to get probably between 10 and 20 million views for us, just us comparing our heights to him. So this is an example of take something in culture that's happening right now that people are talking about all over the internet, create a piece of content around that, and there's a good chance that you're going to get more views and more engagement because that's something that everyone's talking about and probably searching for somewhere on the internet.
Yeah, so that's a good one. I know you have a lot of thoughts on that, but real quick, real question. Somebody in the audience asked about, it was Gregory, about using copyright songs, what music you use to source the videos, but also, are there any concerns for name, image, and likeness infringement concerns when you put an athlete's picture on one of those short form videos? Is there anything around that you can give us some insights on?
I'm not a lawyer, and so I'm not giving legal advice, but what I have found and what I've done research on is that as a creator account, now some people will have different accounts, but I would suggest the creator account is probably the best because what you're wanting to do is you want to use your social media to get people aware of your school. And so by putting out content as a creator, that's the best way of doing it. So having said that, we always you can use the built-in songs, you could play in there. A lot of times a lot of the images on the internet, for example, on this one, Bronny James, it was public domain, you can use it. And so now if we were to create an ad, now there would be a little bit of an issue there. So if we were to create an ad or to use this as a sponsored post. So when a brand reaches out to us as That Tall Family, then we can't use, there's certain music we can't use and there's certain images we can't use. We don't wear branded clothing. We don't wear Nike when we're doing videos for Hasbro, for example. And so if we're running an ad or if we're getting paid to do it, it's different opposed to just creating a video that you're not going to put money behind. Again, I'm not a lawyer, but everything that I've seen, that has been the case with social media. And we see it across everything. I mean, huge accounts, big businesses, they do this all the time. So I would be shocked if any school is going to get in trouble for doing that. Because, and again, check legal, but everyone does it, so it must be fine.
Yeah, definitely. Definitely with the built-in song, TikTok and Instagram, you can, and Facebook Reels even, you can put the music on there along with the video. So that gives you an out there. Next one is, I know traditionally it's TikTok, Instagram that are our go-to platforms for higher education, but not all platforms are created equal for certain content. So let's listen to this one real quick.
Platform and culture. This idea that every single platform is going to reach a different culture. So whether it's YouTube, Instagram, Facebook, Snap, whatever it may be, the content that you produce on that platform is going to reach a different audience. And so you need to be mindful of that when you produce that content. Take, for example, this week we made this video of a popular streamer and a popular YouTuber. So of course it did well this week on YouTube. The same video though only reached 1.5 million on Instagram and only 800,000 on TikTok. Just because for this platform and the culture that's going to reach, of course, Kai Cenat is going to be most popular on YouTube. And it's just an example that when you produce content, you got to take into consideration the platform that you're using and the culture that you're trying to reach.
So that's very insightful because
platform and culture.
They tend to go to certain platforms because we've always done it this way. But I recently saw this poll from Pew Research that one of the most popular social media platforms amongst teens is actually YouTube. And I know there's been a shift to YouTube Shorts, hasn't there been, Rob?
Yeah, it's huge. We've seen it for about the last 18 months, and it's just getting ramped up. We got to realize that behind Google, YouTube is the most popular search engine on the planet. So more people will search in YouTube. And so when you create a video, you got to be thoughtful about your captions and how you're going to answer that question within the first 3 to 5 seconds, or at least point people to that. And so the idea is that you can take one video and it could live on every platform. But just realize sometimes they'll perform better on one platform and opposed to a different one. And then little things that you could change. And so you could take the same video and put different music depending on the platform, because the trending music on TikTok is usually earlier than the trending music on YouTube. And so you could just be mindful of that, because sometimes you could switch out the music and it makes a big difference. So little tweaks like that, and especially when YouTube, most people are searching for a question. And so think in your mind, whatever video you're trying to answer, how would you form even your title in that? And there's now within YouTube, if you're verified, which I think you only need over 100 subs to do this, that you could actually A/B test your thumbnails, which means is you could put 2 thumbnails up and YouTube, the AI, will see which one performs better. And so there are little hacks, just little things that make a difference between 500 views and 5,000 views.
Very good, very good. Okay, next slide. So we're done with the videos here. So there's something I want to talk a little bit about your story a little bit more, just because you recently shared this image on LinkedIn. So, and I highly recommend everybody following Maya and Rob on LinkedIn to get more insights on, how to do the social media thing. But what strategies do you use or have you used to ensure that the hard work behind the scenes eventually translates into the success we see here? Because it can get very discouraging at the beginning when you don't see any traction, right? How do you keep going? How do you tell your team to keep up the energy if you don't see any results at the beginning?
Yeah, it's funny. We treat social media so much different than the rest of life. If someone were to go into a gym at 12 years old and at 5'3" and try to dunk it, we would say that's ridiculous. You got to grow, you got to work out, you got to increase your jumping. You got to grow to it. So, and that's true in so many things in life. And so social media is no different. It takes a little bit of time. I like to use the phrase drip, 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 splash. And the idea is that you just got to, every day, you got to put content out there. And especially early on, as you put it out there, you're not going to be sure what resonates. Some things work, some things don't. But over time, there's little things that you'll learn, such as, okay, this works, or I should be posting later in the afternoon, not early in the day. I should change the first image, should be this in the profile picture instead of this. So there's certain little things that there's no way for you to know unless you put out quantity, because the quantity will lead to quality. And so often we think we just want one really quality piece of content and thinking that it's going to be the home run. So, and this has changed. So Fortune 500 companies, so I look at them and what they're doing. And so what they're doing now is very smart. If you put out a lot of organic content, organic meaning that it's free, you're not putting any money behind it. And so ThatTallFamily, our personal brand, like we've never put a single cent behind any of our videos. And so we see what naturally works. Now, for example, the volleyball video that we watched, when the volleyball team, we made that, it got 4 million views. There was a volleyball camp, so we took that same video because we know that it works, and we turned it into an ad for the volleyball camp, and it had over 1.5 million views as an ad. So if a school puts out a lot of content, what you're going to find is for some reason, one's going to pop off. And so if you averages 3,000 to 5,000 views per video, and all of a sudden one goes for 200, 400, or 1 million, then something's there. And so you can actually then, if you want, tweak that just a little bit and put money behind that one because you know people already resonate with it. And so instead of just trying to guess and put an ad out there, which most people do, I mean, when I say most people, not just schools, but the universe, like anyone that puts stuff on social media, instead of guessing, put out organic content, see what works, and then amplify the videos that work because you know they're going to go get more, leverage. And so real quick, I want to answer real quick because there was a question. It's like, okay, millions of views is great, but does that lead to applications? So again, we treat social media different than so many other things. For so long, we run radio ads, we run TV ads, we run billboards, we run programmatic banner ads, and we have no data if that leads to anything at all. And so, but we never ask that question. And so the real answer is sometimes we just don't know. But if you want engagement, you first have to have awareness. If nobody knows who you are, you're not going to engage with them. And social media will give you that for free like no other tool in the history of the world has done. And so I always look at it as like, this gets you awareness. Now, if your product's good, because if your product's not good, making people aware of it's not going to help. So you got to have a good product, make people aware about it. And then there's the rest of the tools of how do we then turn that into engagement. Hopefully we got good teams that could take it from there. But the goal of social media is get awareness, and it gets us awareness like never before.
Perfect. I love it. Thank you, man. Here with this one, I saw this post of yours as well when you said when we consider social media reach, it's common to expect videos to go viral within the first 24 to 48 hours on platforms like Instagram or TikTok. So can you talk a little bit about that? Because, in this world of instant gratification, we expect everything to work right now, right here, right then. And there may be some people who may think, oh, this didn't perform. Maybe I'll just delete that post off my social so it doesn't look bad on me.
Yeah. Without a doubt, you have to be in each platform and you have to know how they work and also know that they're always changing. And so this is important to know. This is YouTube, where I looked at, we had a really big month. And so within that month, most of the views, as you can see there, over 70% happened within the last 6 months. And so meaning that a video that we made in the last month was only 20% of all of our views. Which is also interesting is that over the videos that we made 6 months ago or later, we're still getting 10% of the views. And so this is YouTube, and what we're finding is that TikTok is starting to follow this. 2 years ago, I would know within the first 2 hours roughly how well our video would do, if it was going to go viral or if it was just going to, fall flat. But now TikTok recently, within the last 3 to 6 months, they're falling more like YouTube, where they're allowing the videos to get pushed out much later. On YouTube, there has been videos that we have that have sat for 3 months with a couple thousand views, and then all of a sudden take off for 10 to 20 million views. And so sometimes again, it gets back to that analogy, you have to be patient. So you have to hurry up and make as much content as you can, but also be patient, realizing that it's gonna take a little bit of time for you to figure out what's gonna really work. And again, we treat social media so different. We do a post and we expect that instantly it's going to bring applications in. Again, we don't treat any other form of marketing like that at all.
Perfect. Okay, I got one more slide for you, and then we go into full Q&A again. So this one here, that I saw that as well. Let's talk about the success of a posting cadence. How often should one post? And you alluded to that we should focus on quantity over quality at the beginning, but how many times a day would you say should one post? Once?
As much as you can. That's the answer. As much as you can. The reality is most people are not going to be able to do multiple posts per day. And so there's seasons of life. So as a college, you should get to a place where you're posting 3 to 4 times a day. I think that's very easy to do when you think about images, when you think about student accounts, when you think about the athletes, when you think about alumni. It takes a little bit of time to build that up. Now that is the dream, because here's what's going to happen. The more at bats you get, the better chance of hitting a home run are. And so if we only put out a piece of content one time, once every 3 or 4 days, we're just not going to get the momentum. And a piece of it is also wanting to build up that catalog. And you're right, Chris, I used to say quantity over quality. And so I've changed that a little bit now. And so what I say now is quantity leads to quality, because it's in that quantity you start to realize what the quality actually is and what people want to see. Part of it is if you could build up a catalog, and so that last slide and even this slide shows is that as you build, then you just build momentum every single day. And so early on when we were starting to build social media, where then all of a sudden, like in a course of a day, it was a couple 100,000 views every single day. But now, because we built up such a large catalog across all the platforms, we're averaging millions of views every single day. And so obviously you realize that it's just the more you build and the more awareness is out there, the better it's going to be for your school and your brand.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. So that comes to the conclusion of this session. Now we're going to go into the Q&A, but you said something about trying to hit it out of the park. I saw you post something recently where you said the best home run hitters have the most strikeouts as well. So that's something to keep in mind there as well. So we're going to go into some questions here. So please drop them into the chat. We had one from Amanda Rose earlier. Do you have a general cost of working with influencers? Maya, Rob, some suggestions on what ballpark people should aim for?
It's hard to say. I think it depends on the size of the influencer, the market, so it varies.
Yeah, and it does, and it varies a ton. What I find is that it's just classic negotiation, and so trying to Even when I work with big brands, they're trying to get as much as they can for as little as they can. But you can Google, and so it depends. A micro influencer, so someone 50,000 or less, a lot of them will do it if they're on your campus. They'll do it for some swag, something of that nature. Alumni will just do it if you just ask them for free, just because they love the institution. But if you're actually looking for a real influencer, it depends. Like usually bigger brands, sometimes they'll just be a flat fee and then they'll run ads against whatever you produce for them. And then sometimes they'll pay you 5 cents per view. And so every view that you get them, they'll pay you 5 cents. So that 200,000 is, what is that, $10,000? So it can get pricey doing that. So it really depends. It's all over the place. But you can Google and they'll give you Google is pretty accurate for the most part of what influencers charge.
Okay. Maya, do you use alumni as well?
We have used some alumni who have graduated, went to a 4-year school, and then they wanted to do an internship. So they came back and were ambassadors for us. So it was really great because they were able to talk about their experience of transferring to a different school. And that's one of the most common questions we get from our students. What is it like? What does it take? Did all the courses transfer? How is it different from a community college? So it was a great experience. But to add to what Rob said about influencers, I do think, and I'm a big believer in developing your own influencers on campus. And I do believe that every person on campus can be an influencer and is an influencer, but they can amplify their efforts if they're more active on social media. That's something I am actively working on, and I do encourage you to integrate faculty, staff into your social media efforts.
That's awesome. Yeah, Amanda, I had one more question. Thank you, Amanda, for your participation. I really love that. Thoughts on evergreen content? Is there something that you have on your site that's like just continuously, racks up views?
Yeah, you'll find that, and platforms do change, and so TikTok seems to move a lot quicker than, say, YouTube does. Instagram will push it out on Facebook if you allow it. And so when it comes to making content, and I forget who said this earlier on, but we overthink it so much. And so it's a both and. And so of course there's going to be some content we should be mindful about making evergreen. But at the same time, don't be afraid to make a piece of content that might be a flash in the pan. That is very specific about a time, something trending, or answering a question that eventually if someone stumbles across in a year from now, no one's going to get upset because they'll see like, oh, they made this a year ago. Oh, they're not cool because this trend's so old. It's like, no, they'll see that it was made during the time when that trend was popular.
I think evergreen content can be great for highlights on Instagram, for example. And then you could even send emails to new students, sending them to highlights on Instagram. Not only it allows them to kind of get introduced to your Instagram channel, but also encourage them to follow you and hopefully get more content as they progress.
Very good. Okay,
4 or 5
perfect.
posts.
That's great. I don't see any other questions. So I thank everybody for participating. I thank you, Maya. Thank you, Rob, for being part of our webinar series. So here's the contact information for Maya and Rob. Be sure to connect with them on LinkedIn. Then you'll see, some of their other stuff. Go to ThatTallFamily.com and MayaDemishkevich.com, and be sure to check out Maya's podcast as well. So everybody, thank you so much for being part of our summer series. Next webinar is coming up in September, so keep an eye out for that, and wish everybody a great rest of the week, and I hope that you enjoyed this session. So thank you, everyone. We'll see you next time.
Thanks, Chris.
You bet. Bye-bye.